So first off, let's just go through and let people know who we have up here. We talked about your title, but we'll just go down the table real quick. Brian Crane, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your office, your operation?
Thank you, Neil. Great to be here. Thank you, Will. Good to see everybody. We're a standing room only crowd. Pretty awesome on a rainy, cold February day. I'm Brian Crane. I'm the CEO at Intero. I'm one of the founders of Intero. So 20 some years ago, we decided to do a new company, and about 7 of us embarked. I left a lucrative sales career to jump into management, and I've been second guessing myself ever since. But seriously, we've had a great run, and we've enjoyed the work that we've done. We've got 19 company-owned stores. Hello, Joe Brown. And we have about 30 franchises around the country. So we also have a partnership in mortgage and a partnership in title business, and several other unique partnerships. So that's a little synopsis about our company. We've got 1,300 agents in the company stores and about 1,300 in franchise offices. Thanks for inviting me to be here.
Fantastic. Alan?
Yeah, I'm Alan. Can you hear that? I'm Alan Scarce, and I'm the Regional Vice President for Caldwell Banker in the Silicon Valley, San Francisco Peninsula, Monterey Bay region. My particular region encompasses from Burlingame down to Carmel. We have about 1,800 agents in 18 office locations within that region, and I'm part of a 52 office group in Northern California. Personally, I've been in the business about 35 years, which is hard to believe. We'll put it that way. Relatively new to our marketplace. So I have served in positions like Chief Operating Officer of a company called John L. Scott, Pacific Northwest, was the General Sales Manager for a company called Mason McDuffie. Had my own real estate company at one point in time, but I've only been in this marketplace for about 2 years, and I'm absolutely blessed and lucky to work with the incredible managers and associates of our company. So that's it.
Good morning. Okay, so my name is Dave Walsh. This is I'm embarrassed to say, my 45th year in business in Silicon Valley here. I manage 2 offices. I have a Willow Glen office of about 275 agents, and the Los Altos office about 130 agents. I want to also touch something real quick. We're all friends up here. We're not competitors, and I think that's unique to most of the associations I go to and visit in my travels around the state. We are blessed to have really quality people running all of these companies. And I think that's very, very special, because in Santa Clara County, we don't have those turf wars. We don't fight amongst each other. We don't call each other out. If we've got a problem, we call them up and say, hey, look, can we work on this together? This is why I am so excited to be part of this panel, because we're here for you. We're here for the industry. We're here for Santa Clara County real estate. And we believe that we will all prosper. We believe there's plenty of business to go around. We're not in this marketplace like LA, and I don't want to pick on LA because I have lots of opportunities to pick on LA, but we are special. And it starts with Neil as well at the top, because he creates that environment that we get to work within. And of course, our staff at SCORE that makes us all makes it so we can work together. Right. So again, I have a long history here. It's always been in this marketplace. I was state president, but that's pales in comparison to what we were able to do here.
Thank you, Dave. Good morning, everybody. My name is Ryan Iwanaga, and I'm actually co-founder along with my childhood best friend, Chris Trapney, who, by the way, was supposed to be here, but he got tied up. So he apologizes for missing the meeting. Yeah, so Chris and I founded Sereno Group in 2006. We recently had a merger with App Properties and actually became the controlling owners of the Christie's International Real Estate brand. So it's been a little bit of a transition, but it's been a great one for us. We currently have 17 offices and have a little bit under 500 active agents in the Bay Area and parts of Northern California. But really, it's actually, Dave was really articulate about the wonderful thing about kind of today is I'm usually kind of insularly focused and busy with all my responsibilities at the company. But when I come here, it's always nice to see everybody from other brokerages, right? We've all been through a lot. The business is hard. Our industry and what we do is very hard and it's noble. And it's just nice to come to a place like this and see familiar faces. And it really doesn't matter what brokerage that they're affiliated with. I was just telling Neil, kind of the sense I get whenever I come to a SCORE event is the community, and that's most important. So I just want to thank everybody for being here, and I'm just looking forward to participating in the panel.
Awesome. Good morning, everyone. My name is, Carl Batiste. I'm with Keller Williams Bay Area Estates. And I've been in the business for 18 years and came out of corporate America, worked for companies like SC Johnson, Del Monte Foods, and Colgate Palmolive. And I decided it was time to make the switch. Like you, I'm thinking, wonder why I made this. Just kidding. I really love it, though. I started off building my own team up in the Danville area, and I still have that team running on its own. And I took many positions within our company as a regional director, as a trainer, as a coach, and running our region of 37 offices in Northern California, Hawaii, with about 5,000 agents total. And then when I stepped down from that role, I decided to join forces with our great ownership group. And Doug, you're one of those great owners, right? And Mark, I know you know Mark Von Canel and Jim Myrick and several others, and became a business partner. And I'm the COO of our Los Gatos Saratoga that we just launched in July, and our Carmel office. And like you, Alan, right? I've been here about 2+ years, so I'm getting used to this community, and I'm excited to be here. And thanks for the invite.
Thank you, Carl. So let's go in reverse order. So Carl, I'm going to hit you up right out the gate here. How are the agents feeling? How maybe coming into this year after coming off of a rough winter, and then, has there been any change in their mindset over the last few weeks?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's all over the board. And I think there are people that are newer that are coming in, don't know what to do with what it is, have no idea where to go with where it's going, have not experienced anything other than what they experienced in the last 6 months. Whoops. And I think the agents that are rooted in success, that have market share, understand that shift happens, right? And it's always going to happen. And if you were around in 2008, you know what that roller coaster ride looked like in 2009, and yet it came back and we had a very lucrative market. And I think a lot of it is based on the focus the agent actually brings to the business. I love the expression, you're either in this business for a year or a career. And if you're in it for a career, you understand that you're driving and navigating. So I think a lot of it is successful agents know they have to put their hand to the plow. They got to put their head down and they have to focus. And I think for a lot of the newer agents, it's about getting stability around change. And change is a fact of our world.
Fantastic. And we have a big panel here. We'll go in reverse order. So you're up next, Ryan. But if either one of you, if anyone wants to pass, something's been said or whatever, we can do that. But go ahead, Ryan.
So the question.
Yeah, it's just kind of like how are people feeling at the beginning of the year, and has that mindset shifted over the last few weeks where it seems like things are picking up a little bit more?
Yeah. So I can tell you that, March of last year, we all experienced it, right? All of a sudden slow down. And then there was a lot of kind of worry and kind of stress and focusing on what's to come. I think everybody has been pleasantly surprised this first part of the 2023. I don't think what we've noticed all throughout East Bay, Upper Peninsula, Mid Peninsula, South Bay, is that open house activity, market activity has been very robust, right? And I think that it's a great sign. Volume is down, right, because of lack of inventory. But I think that everybody has been somewhat surprised. We were talking about it in Los Altos yesterday, just about how everybody is in this prep mode. They have listings that are coming on, and now there's a little bit more urgency. And I think people weren't really sure what was going to happen the first few months of 2023. And so they were setting expectations with sellers. Maybe we'll put it on and strategize when the market begins to start, when it activates after Super Bowl, spring market, et cetera. And now because of all the activity that has gone on, there's this bigger urgency or this push to get to market right now, right? And so I think last year we were kind of going through it, and I think this year at the beginning of the quarter, where everybody is sort of like, okay, open houses, we're getting 50 people through, 30 people, and I know open houses are never really an indication of overall what's going to happen with the property, but just the fact that there's foot traffic and there's activity and disclosures being pulled, and in some of our properties we're getting multiple offers, right? So it's a good sign. We'll see what happens during the spring and going into May. Doug and I were just talking about it, but I think the energy is good right now, and it's something to take advantage of. So
The only thing I'd add to that is I think there's a party going on. And I say that because you don't want to be late to the party. This is a opportunity time. And the wisdom of being a million years in this business is I've seen multiple cycles like this go through. And at the end of the day, it's really about interest rates and confidence of consumers in the marketplace. And that lags right now. The truth is consumer price indexes are, consumer confidence is lagging all across the board, and it can disappear tomorrow. So when I say there's a party going on, please work right now. Please listen to all your managers, hold as many open houses as you can, get as many buyers under contract as you can, meet with your favorite affiliate lenders, get loans under contract right now. This is truly an opportunity time. Nobody knows when this is going to end, just like Ryan said. It could end Mother's Day like it almost traditionally does, or it could end March 1st, right? So don't be late to the party, please.
I'll go a little bit off question, but first of all, I want to say there's a tremendous level of optimism with all of us today, right? And it's not just what we're seeing on listings coming on, it's the conversations about, I just brought the contractor in, we're fishing this, I'm putting this property on, they're slotting them, show up at the end of March, April, whatever time periods. The optimism is that we have things are getting ready to come on the marketplace. The other good news is we can actually get contractors right now, right? So some of that work's actually happening. Quick thing I want to say is my favorite quote in the world is simply this: you must be present to win. You must be present to win. Yeah, it's in every aspect of your life. If I'm going to be a good husband, when I'm with my wife, I must be present with her. When I'm talking to an agent, I need to be spending time just with that person. And what we need to do as realtors is be as present as we can with our clients to add value and to create that optimism. And going back to your comment, Carl, about open houses, open houses don't tell us how that house is going to sell, but it's the earliest stages of the buying process is curiosity. We go from curiosity to interest to desire, that ultimately to commitment. And when we see this much activity, it reminds us that 2 years ago, where were we having 30, 40 offers? And that meant we had, 29 to 40 people who lost every time they had a transaction. Losing gets tiring. Those people abandon the home buying process. And what we're finding now is people are finding their equilibrium, that balance between the price point, what they're willing to look for in a home, and ultimately, what the prices are. And I think there's a lot of people are anxious to come back in the market. So no stats in that. It's all feeling, but I'm feeling pretty optimistic. So.
Yeah, I don't have much more to add than what our panel just suggested. I think real estate agents and are at heart entrepreneurs, and those of us that have been in this business a long time have seen cycles, and we know that things are going to get better. After every winter, there is a spring and there is a summer, and we're in a winter, and we're in a 5 or 6 January winter right now. And, it'll turn. And so to everybody, I'm in agreement with everybody. I think optimism is something that's at the core of every entrepreneur. And I think that exists in this room. And I think we all know that the scarcity of real estate, the value of real estate in Santa Clara County, it's not going away. It's just taking a little break. And I think we're going to return to typical cycles. And this is a kind of something that had to happen after a 2-year run that we had. We had to, something had to slow down or stop. And I think we're going to return to a normal cyclical scenario. going forward. And that doesn't mean it's going to be boom time again, but I think we're going to return to what historically we've seen is in a cyclical situation where spring and summer are big time. And to everybody's point here, get ready to go, because I know that there are people prepping their homes to sell, and this inventory shortage is probably going to remain with us, but there's going to be a lot of activity because there's a lot of houses that are gearing up to go. So get your buyers in line and let's get after it.
If I could just add one piece to that, we talked about how tiring it is for buyers. It's tiring for our real estate agents as well. And here's the thing, this is what we do for a living. I think we need to go back and encourage our agents to not let go of all the work they put in those last 8, 9, 10 months, because these people that are being re-energized to buy are going to buy, and they're going to buy with somebody. And the worst thing I think we would want is to spend all 8 or 9 months getting exhausted just to have somebody go pick somebody else to work with after they put their time in. So I would encourage our agents to stay the course and stay in touch with those people.
Yeah, and if I could just follow up, when we do our general membership survey this year, more than ever, I saw a lot of self-doubt amongst our members, really like, what is my value? Am I going to be able to, produce a viable living for myself and my family? And what is your value is a lot of what we're hearing here. I mean, you have the most relevant information for your buyers and sellers. The headlines that we're seeing in the national media, they want to get sensationalized so they can get eyeballs on them. And they're also like 6 weeks behind. So you have a tremendous value just by being active and engaging with your clients and going to your office meetings and going to the marketing meetings. So Ryan, let's go ahead and finish the thread, and then we'll move to the right of you, and then we'll loop back to Carl. What advice are you giving to those agents that maybe are struggling? Why there seems to be a lot of optimism. There's some folks that the sky is falling and perception is reality, right?
Yeah. And, I think any realtor, whether you're successful or not, you always wake up with a little bit of anxiety, right? Like, I remember when I was first in the business, I did a transaction like maybe my second month in, and I was thinking, okay, I'm off and running. My success is there and whatever. Then 7 months later, I hadn't done a deal, right? And I was struggling, and it was a good lesson for me. And so, for us, I think what we've tried to do over we've anticipated that there's going to be this self-doubt, right? Especially when the market slows down, it's changing. And so really what we've tried to encourage our people, and really kind of, for us as a brokerage, we've tried to create mindset, right? Mindset is everything. And, like Dave says, if you've been in this business any amount of time, you've been through the ups and the downs, and you always know that's cyclical. When you're in it, that's all you kind of know. And there's a fear that this is all that there's ever going to be, right? And so what we've tried to do is we've tried to get people off of thinking about the worst case scenario and actually doing the things that they can do in order to control the business and to create opportunity. And, I know it's a complicated world out there. We've got social media, we've got apps, we've got this, we've got that. But at the end of the day, right, the fundamentals of real estate still hold true. And that is the key to success is, are you following up with your past clients? Are you making calls and contacting your sphere of influence? Are you doing open houses? Are you doing the basics that will work for you in a good market? Those same fundamental practices work in any market, in a down market, right? And so we want to kind of get people off of the thinking part of it and into the action part of it, because that's really where the key is. And that's where they're going to start creating opportunity for themselves. If they sit around and they worry about what's going to happen, nothing, it's going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy. So we've really tried to make an effort in all the things that we're doing to coach our people up and to get them into action, because that's what kind of gets results. And, I think the question about what's my value, like the value of a realtor is at the kitchen table. That's where we make our bones, right? the human interaction and the relationships that we build at the kitchen table. That's the reason why our industry is so special and why we've had all of these disruptors come into our business and try to basically change it. And the one thing they can't do and the one thing they can't take away is the value of that realtor sitting at the kitchen table and making a human touch with them. There's no app that can do that, right? And that's where we have to rely on in times of, and when you're questioning yourselves, is your value is who you are as a person and the value you bring to that relationship. So.
Just a quick ad. So I ran a panel of my top agents at the beginning of the year, very first office meeting. In fact, we had my top producing people share with the group their ideas about how 2023 is going to be different. Now, I bet you if everybody could be honest here and everybody raised their hand who had anxiety going into 2023, right? Everybody did. If you had to have, because no, I did. So do I. So like I said earlier, this is my 45th year, and every year I wake up in January and I have the same anxiety because it's just built into this industry. Who knows, right? So anyway, we came up with a top 20 tips. I'm going to send that list of top 20. And by the way, I think they're all brilliant. They didn't come from me. None of them came from me. It all came from these top producers, right? So I'm going to send that list to Jody, and you can get it from Jody if you were interested in picking that up, right? It's just they're one sentence comments. You all know the answers already, but it's kind of reinforcement of what you need to get back to doing. But the best of all of these, I stole from Steve Bonafide. Most of you know who Steve Bonafide is. He came up with this: buy lunches, not leads. So just stop and think about that for a second, because that's basically what Ryan's saying as well, right? This is a relationship business. Yet, what do? We look for quick, answers. We look for magic pills. We look for some way to get us business. So we go broke, spending our money, buying leads from who and whatever. And trust me, they don't have your best interest in mind, right? They have their best interest in mind. And those leads you're paying a lot of money for don't pan out. They just don't pan out. I can give you lots of examples, concrete examples of people writing huge checks that get nothing from that. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't work. All I'm saying is think the opposite. Why not take people to lunch? Why not take your favorite group of people? Take your favorite clients to lunch, right? Brian Buffini, do the pop buy with that money instead of buying leads, because it's still always going to be a relationship business. It's who you know, it's who you have a relationship with, who you're in front of when they decide they want to buy or sell, right? And it's not about, there's no magic pills is what I'm trying to say.
I couldn't agree with Dave anymore at all. That's just exactly what it is. We're in a personal relationship business. And what I know is that people choose their realtor based on the people they know, they like, they trust, and they're present with, that they're engaging with on a regular basis. And I ultimately view a simple line, sometimes things you heard 30 years ago hold true all the time. One of the most important things I believe in is the concept of be a solution finder, not a problem fixer. Okay, see the difference there? And every time you engage with your clients, they have aspirations about how they're going to live in their house. So my favorite prospecting question in the world is simply this: if you were going to live in your house for another 5 years, what would you want to do to improve it? Right? So that's an aspirational question, right? It gives them a vision of how they want to have an improvement in their life. And now all I have to do as a realtor is either help them find a way to make that improvement in their home, or find them a house that already has it fixed. Is that a good way of saying that? But that starts to create that desire and engagement. So when you talk to your clients, identify their dreams and then find ways to help these solutions to their dreams. And that's how we generate business. So way oversimplified, but that's.
So the question was, what advice are you giving to those agents that are struggling? I just want to reiterate the question in case anybody's might have forgotten it. I think anxiety is something that every entrepreneur has, and it is the catalyst to get work done. And if you don't have a little bit of that, you're just simply not going to make it. I think it's a key ingredient to success. Also, though, I think you have to be good at dealing with that anxiety. You can't let it overcome you. So I think that building in a morning routine is a critical aspect to long-term success and health. And I think that's something that we have always espoused at Intero is taking care of yourself. You are the economic engine in your family, and it's important to take care of that engine. And so we talked about anxiety. I couldn't agree more. I've learned to live with it and learn to enjoy it, right? And I think if you're managing it, I think you're going to be in better shape in the long run. But what we're also talking about is focusing on things you can control. You can't control the economy. You can't control what the Fed does. Who cares what the Fed does? The Fed is the Fed, and you have nothing to do with it. People are going to be buying and selling real estate this year. Let's go find them. That's basically what we have to focus on. Another thing, our clients are in this area. It's very unique, and as you all know, it's our clients are very, very well educated. So we can't afford not to be extremely well educated ourselves. The most educated people don't want to learn everything about real estate. They want to hire an expert. So we have to be that expert that they're looking for. And so my thing, we talked about value on the panel, and I've got it written down here, and I cheated just because on these panels, I never know what's going to be said. So I always have like 7 different things I can say in case it's already been said. So that's exactly what I have here. But become incredibly value. One of the things that creates value is scarcity. The only thing that creates value is scarcity. So if you're like everybody else, then you're not valuable. So how are you going to be different? And I think I would be thinking about that. And are you the agent that brings the most knowledge, or the most time, or the most patience, or the most empathy? All of these characteristics are critical to success. And I think people are looking for that. And those are the things that people refer to. Call Brian or call Sal. The guy's incredibly empathetic, and he understands buyers. That's how the referral happens. And that's what we need to focus on. How do we become that? And then, one of the things that I said yesterday to a group of young realtors, new realtors, and I said, what's always worked for me is just do something. When they're new, just do something. It doesn't even matter. Just go do something. And I was saying this at this meeting I was at with these younger realtors, and one of the kids came up to me after the meeting and he said, "I heard you say that last year. It's amazing." And I just got a kick out of that. I laughed. But the reality is, good things come to people that are enthusiastically engaged. And if you're enthusiastically engaged, good things are going to happen. So that's what we're really impressing on people.
Yeah, I like what you said about focusing on what you can control, because if you're listening to all these headlines in the economy, you're going to go crazy. Good job numbers, good retail numbers usually means good. No, it means bad now, because it means we have inflation, which then means interest rate hikes, which then means higher mortgage, lower affordability. So you'll go insane. Control what you can control. Carl, any advice for those that are struggling?
Yeah, I think these guys all hit on it. A couple of things. I think when we think about our business being self-employed, I think we need to think about why we did this in the first place. Right. And we laugh a little about it. And yet in reality, I stepped away from, I don't know about you folks, I stepped away from W-2 because I wanted to be my own boss, make unlimited income, and I wanted flexibility. And I got all the flexibility in the world. I'm not bringing, not necessarily bringing truckloads of bills into the bank where they're turning me down. Right. And I can be my own boss, not necessarily the best boss in the whole wide world. So it's available. I think we need to go back and say, people say it's my family, it's my kids. What about that? Is it college? Is it retirement? And when people link their mind back to activity, then I think, as we were all talking, that then what you can control is what I think, what I do, and what I say. I can't really control anything else. And I think it all goes back to the same thing. And I think we hit on it all together. It's about lead gen, it's about lead follow-up, and it's about skills. right? So you can make it through any market if you do something, if you have skills. And if you follow up is like, oh, yeah, forgot. And then 2 weeks later, I'm working with Susie or I'm working with Paul, and all that hard work goes to Zippo. So it's commitment of time.
Consistently, good habits. So Dave, we just got back from Indian Wells and for the last couple of years, we've been hearing about these NAR lawsuits. Do you have any concerns about the future of buyer representation compensation at all?
Yes, I do. I've spent a long time actually behind the scenes working on these cases with the state of California. It doesn't mean that we have any particular insight because none of those lawsuits are filed that impact California realtors. They're not, there's 10 class action lawsuits that Neil's referring to right now. I think ultimately, cutting to the chase, I think that the consumers will get what the consumers want, which is a breakup of the commission concept, meaning that there'll be a buyer side commission, there'll be a listing side commission, they'll be separate. There'll be buyer's agents, there'll be seller's agents. And I think ultimately that's going to be the end result of all of this litigation. The consumers will get what the consumers want, and the consumers want to break apart the current structure we've had for however many years it's been in place. Now, that being said, it may not happen in any of your lifetimes. So this litigation, it will drag on. It's massively expensive. The plaintiff's attorneys, there's 7 attorneys that represent the 10 lawsuits. And these are the big guns. These are the people that milk everything. Everything costs $1 bajillion to, all the depositions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This is going to be a long slog through the legal system. Now, the first case was supposed to have been decided in February. They kicked it back to October. So the first results of this, or kicked it forward to October, I guess it is. The first results will come then, but that's just the first opinion. There'll be multiple appeals. This go back and forth. It may happen in 5 years, I think, on the earliest. But here's what you need to understand about this. So first of all, California Association of Realtors has already prepared a new buyer's representation agreement. So if you've not looked at that, please look at that. It's a whole different document than the other ones we used to have. It's much more passive. There's lots of, I think, good changes to the form. It's not required. 14 states require buyer broker representation agreements. California is not one of those. We will not become one of those because of the existing legislation we have. In my opinion, in California, anything can happen. But the truth is that's not likely in our future. But it's still a good practice to understand why you have buyer representation agreements, right? So in the future, that'll be our model. We will have, every time you have a client, you'll have them sign a buyer representation agreement. You'll go off into the world. Now, just by a show of hands, how many people use buyer representation agreements today? Okay, this is about the norm, right? So I see about 10 hands raised. Right. So actually, it's fairly high compared to the people I typically talk to. Okay. Now, if I said if you do it on every one of your transactions, how many would raise your hand? A few less. Right. So in the future, it'll be every one of your transactions. Nothing to be afraid of at all. Right. So it's just about articulating your value proposition, which we talked about already, and making sure the client understands what they're getting for the compensation they're going to be paying, right? So it's just a shift. It's just a change. It's not going to, I don't think it's going to have any dramatic impact other than I think our listing agents will become probably very good at what they do. And probably, quite frankly, their compensation may go up. I'm speaking out loud and looking down that road because I do believe that consumers will pay for really high quality real estate agents, just like they pay for really high quality attorneys. And that's ultimately about professionalism that you bring to the table. If you have no skills, if you have no ethics, if you have no morals, and you have a real estate license, you will probably not survive, right? Which is not a bad thing either, right? So again, I think it moves us forward, but it's not going to happen tomorrow.
So Alan, maybe just a slightly different question. If we assume what Dave said is correct and it's inevitable, what are you doing to prepare your agents for this future?
Great question. Well, first of all, sorry. It's been interesting watching the fear that agents have had as they have the realization that this change is upon us. I've been an advocate of buyer's brokerage agreement my entire career, and I'll say there's something really important at this moment. I'll digress for a moment. For those of us who've been in the business a long time, we remember the panic we had about the internet, the buyers going correct, and we said, oh, this internet thing will never last, right? Well, here's the truth. Buyer's brokerage is going to be a part of our future. And the most important thing to do right now is to get really, really clear on your value to buyers and being able to articulate that and have really meaningful buyer consultation conversations with your clients when you first meet with them, so they understand your value proposition and you're keeping your commitments to them. So I embrace this, and I think it's a great thing for the industry. Even if the lawsuits never happen, if we spend more time focusing on really delivering value to our buyers, the industry is going to be a better place.
Same question, Brian. What do we do in the prepare?
Yeah, Carl's sitting next to me and he's cheating off my sheets. So I'm just kidding. I don't have too much more to add here, but first of all, I'd like to thank Neil and Dave and Will and everybody on the board at SCORE and the boards at Silvar and everywhere else, because this is, I believe that the government is getting involved, the DOJ is involved in this stuff, and they're coming after your business. They're coming, and also some of these broke business models. They're at the, I think they're at the underlying piece of this, and those business models don't make any money, but they're trying to mess with our business. So I appreciate the fact that we have volunteers that help. As agents, we have a whole group of people that help to try to head this stuff off at the pass. That being said, what we're doing, and what I've always done, and I've done a tremendous number of buyers in my career. I've always been a huge advocate of full transparency to buyers and sellers. And the idea that I'm sharing with the buyer what I make is one of the things that I talk about in my presentation. And I ask them for a commitment. And if I don't get a commitment, then I don't work with them. And I've been teaching and training that for 20 years and executing on that 15 years prior to that as a real estate agent. And I can honestly say I've never had a buyer leave me because they leave before we start if they're going to leave. And so I have the conversation, I get a commitment. And the irony of all of this is the only one that I ever had leave me is the one that signed the buyer broker agreement. And I don't think we can hide behind the buyer broker agreement. It's more about the conversation that you're having and the commitment you're getting and the value that you're portraying to your clients. And I'll end on the last one is that anytime I'm a believer that anytime the government gets involved, and the DOJ is all over this. They started it, and these attorneys jumped all over it. Okay. And the attorneys, that's another subject I won't get into, but when the government gets involved in things, there's unintended consequences, and those unintended consequences, I think, are going to unfortunately make it more difficult for buyers in many cases to qualify. If they're going to actually put the bill on the buyer, asking the buyer to come up with 5 or 10 or 15 or 20% plus another 2 or 3% for commissions, I just think it's a mess. And I'm disappointed that these guys think that could be good for our industry, but I know that we're in good hands with some of these board members and SCORE and Silvar fighting the fight. So I appreciate what everybody's doing for that.
Fantastic. And we talked, thank you. We talked originally about compensation, but how many in the room have worked with a buyer for months only to see them write the contract with someone else? Right. So there's a whole nother angle to this. So Carl, you got anything to add?
No, I think that, I'm in agreement here. I think the best. I'm in agreement here. I think the best thing we can always do is go back and ask our people to be the best version of what they do professionally. Because no matter what happens, and we're always going to deal with change. If you go back into the, I was a kid then, right? In the 80s, high school kid. If you go back to the 80s though, and you think about, 17, 18% interest rates, buyers still bought houses by changing how they bought. And that was asking for sellers to fund. There's always going to be something around how we work. It's going to be finagled one way or the other. I just think the same thing. If you come from value and your people are the best version, right? If we're the best version we can be, we'll find a way to navigate it rather than stress over it.
Ryan, anything to add?
Yeah, so I think organizationally, we're trying to go where the puck's going to be, right? So we see this happening. First of all, what I was going to say after Dave's original answer was, I'm so glad you asked him that question, right? Because he's got a mountain of knowledge. So basically what we've decided to do is we're basically going to really dig down deep into the buyer broker agreement, right? And we're going to figure it out. We're going to figure out the why. We're going to teach the why. We're going to review the document, you know, and the application of it. And, you know, it's interesting because what I realized along the way, along the leadership journey is and, you know, most agents don't use a buyer broker agreement, right? But in the context of business, like we're really the only industry whereby we will work with a client without any type of understanding or agreement, right? And that to me has always been, the dots don't connect. If you are hiring like a service person, any of our service people, there's a contract that you sign. I'm going to do this in exchange, you're going to do this, right? And we're the only industry that will meet someone at an open house and set up an appointment. And maybe we have the conversation that Brian has, and maybe we don't. And half the time we're taking a flyer and we're hoping that the stars align. We build trust and loyalty, right? And when it doesn't happen, it shocks us, right? We get hurt. And so I think we're by kind of embracing the buyer broker agreement, and philosophically, we have agents. We just ran around in circles yesterday about, is it good for us? I'm not going to use it. I'm going to use it. I think that if we embrace the buyer broker agreement and really try to incorporate it into our business, it can only elevate our value as realtors, right? It can be something where it's just an added kind of educational piece to us getting better and becoming more professional. And I think that in and of itself, that could be good. So that's kind of what we're doing.
Fantastic. And I'm glad to hear all the way up here, all the support for it. And, you know, as a SCORE, we're going to try to do our part to create awareness and education as well. So we all work together on this. So, Carl, I think you mentioned something about financing. So I'm going to throw a bonus question out there because last week I actually heard something about seller financing. So we'll open it up to whoever wants to take this. But what kind of unique financing are you seeing? What advice are you giving to agents and the relationships with their affiliate lenders? We have several lenders here in the crowd. Anyone want to jump on? Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just education based. You have to educate. We have a lot of agents that have never been in a market that's anything but up. You know, we have 10 years worth of up and nobody's seen this before. So we have to get to work and teach and train the new reality. And the new reality is going to be here for a while. It's not going to overnight change. We're never going to see 2.5% fixed interest rates again, ever in our lifetime. So it's a new world and we need to train that new world. And most agents that rightfully, they don't know about products like a 2-1 buy down and what rate that actually qualifies at and the benefits of a seller carry. What's a seller carry? Or how about the the barber carry? My barber early on was my second mortgage guy. Anytime I had a buyer that needed a 10% second, I would go to the barber and my wife would go, "You went to see the barber again, huh?" And I'd kind of fake it that I needed a haircut, and then I'd present him with my buyer's credit report, and I'd say, this buyer needs a 10% second. And we did that because we didn't want to pay PMI. And at the time, the interest PMI wasn't deductible. And so you just have to go back to the creativity piece. And there's some phenomenal lenders that, and that's what I love about this business. We'll figure it out. But you have to embrace it. You can't keep kind of hitting the thing with a hammer. You got to change the tool. And And, one of the things I've always said about financing to buyers is, look, you're going to be very emotional about the house. It's normal, but please don't get emotional about the loan. The loan is a tool. It's just math. Let me help you with the math. Let me show you the math. And really, these people are all engineers, right? The people that are buying houses are engineers. And if they're not engineers, they used to be engineers. Okay. And these people are math people. So give them the math and tell them not to get emotional about it. They're going to be freaking out about the house. We know that, but so that's my advice on the financing component.
Awesome. Anyone else?
Can I pass something real quick?
Yeah.
Historically, in the state of California, we sell between 400,000 and 410,000 houses annually every year. We did 1 year of, probably more than 1 year exists in the history of California, but we did 1 year recently, 2021, where we got above 500,000 of closed sales. That's an anomaly. It's a complete anomaly. The moral of the story is we sell between 400,000 and 410,000 houses every year, have done so for about 30 years. And think about all the interest rate changes that have happened over the last 30 years, right? So guess what? This is really much ado about nothing. Like Brian said, we will figure this out. We have brilliant affiliate lenders. They know how to make the market work, because guess what? If the banks don't lend money, they don't make money. So they're going to figure this out. They're coming out with new products every day. They're not new products, they're old new products, right? That are coming back, right? We've all done this before, right? We've all been through this cycle. But please hear me very clearly. We're not going to sell 400,000 units this year, but we're going to work it out over time. And yes, we will sell again at 7%, 8%, 10%, whatever it takes, because we sold at 18%, right? So this is still just our future. We will all be fine. We'll all be fine. The consumers will come around. They'll get used to it. It's surprising to me how quickly they've gotten used to 6% interest rates, right? It's only a year ago, it was 3%, right? It's just that learning curve. And I guess we'll be selling houses like we always sell houses.
Fantastic. So we're running a little short on time, but I am going to start with you, Alan, on this. But since our panel was all about big, bold predictions for this year. So let's move on to this section. What is your big, bold prediction for this year? And then maybe looking into your crystal ball, what do you see happening first quarter next year?
The Giants win the World Series.
Yeah.
Don't think that's what you were looking for. But it's big and it's bold. Go from there. So there we go.
It's very popular.
This isn't going to sound big or bold, but I believe that 20% of the agents that sold houses last year will leave the business this year. Okay. I don't know if that's bold, but I think that's a reality of what we're going with it. And it goes back to one of those really simple concepts we have is, by the way, what you see in front of you here are 5 brokerages who all are full service brokerages. Yeah. We focus on providing a complete and comprehensive service to our clients, and we all provide great services to our agents, right? That isn't all brokerages, right? And so when there's always somebody who is willing to undercut you on price, always, it doesn't matter what you do, any business, they'll undercut you on price. The problem is when things are tough and when we really need expertise, that's not when you go to the discount lawyer or to the guy who just got his financial services license last week, the standpoint. And so that's a good thing for the industry, is that there's going to be greater concentration of transactions in the most successful professionals in the industry. So,
Brian, big, bold.
Big, bold. Well, I did write some things down. Well, the Fed is going to go to the well some more. And so interest rates are going to continue to go up. And you don't dole out $5 trillion without repercussions. What I said earlier about government unintended consequences, this is reality. So we're going to see higher rates, and we're going to embrace our lenders who have great products to help our buyers, because buyers are going to always want to buy and sell. We're always going to have people that are looking for a home. We were looking at a rent versus buy thing to try to, convince buyers, that it makes sense, right? But we were missing a piece of it. And the piece of it is, when you own your own home, nobody can kick you out. as long as you make your payment, right? And the moving process is a nightmare, and nobody's factoring that into the cost of renting. You know, being forced out of your rental is no fun, especially if you have a family and stuff like that. So the big bold prediction, you know, there's going to be a continuing inflation is just going to take a while to beat down, and the Fed is anxious to beat it down, but it's going to take more effort. And then I think, you know, if you go real big and bold, I think historically stable companies, real estate companies, large and small, are going to struggle. And most likely undercapitalized companies are going to be forced to merge or go out of business. So and how that affects real estate agents is depending on how they go out of business. We've already seen a couple in our industry where they go out of business, and in a bankruptcy, you get in line for your pending commissions. Just FYI, you know, the lawyers get involved and they say, okay, here's the list of people that get paid. The landlords get paid, the janitor gets paid, and the realtors are on that list somewhere. But if you got a pending transaction with a broker going under, you may want to be aware that you may want to start pushing out some of your bills too. So I think possibly if the winter season continues for several more months, which wouldn't be surprising, there will be some fallout.
Carl, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think very similar. I think we're going to lose a lot of agents that are not well grounded, that are not producing or are attempting to get traction. I think that we will see increased interest rates again. I think inventory will remain tight. This is my personal thought, I don't think we're necessarily going to see a roller coaster crash. However, I think we'll probably see some stability of instability, if that's a word. And we'll be thinking about what shifting really looks like. And I think it's going to be different as we march throughout the year, because I don't think we've ever been in a market where we've had this kind of exact dynamics. When we talked about financing, you know, we've always had an opportunity for to work through it, like we talked about. And I think buyers and sellers will figure out a way to work through it. People buy and sell 365 days a year. We got title here, right? Except for holidays and Saturday and Sunday, we're not closing escrow. So I think people are going to continue to do it. It's just about how to navigate around this one. And it's just a different flavor in the next year or two, as we've seen in the past.
Okay, Brian?
So I'm not one for predictions and bold predictions. But I think where my mind goes is just we're going to be okay. Right.
Yeah.
There's going to be some bumps and we're going to get some bruises, but we're going to be okay, because the one great thing about our industry, and it's something that I am humbled by always and very grateful to be a part of, is that we're a resilient group. Right. And in spite of the kicking and scratching and the complaining along the way, we eventually adapt and overcome. Right. Like I look around KB, like all the people up here, like we've been through 2008, right? We were there, like we were there 2006 thinking this is the greatest thing ever. And then 2008 came and we were thinking, oh my God, this is the end of the world as we know it. Right. But what we did as an industry is we figured out how to get through it. And I think the one thing about what I always want to remind you guys is that you have survived 100% of your biggest challenges. Like we are all here because we have overcome 100% of any of the challenges that we've faced in our life. And so whatever's in front of you, just know that you're capable of doing that, right? And just do what's best for you. Like I can tell you, like all of us are going to be wrong and all of us are going to be right. Right. And how that affects you, very little. What you need to do, and I think it was mentioned here, is just do one good thing for yourself today. Like pick up the phone, right? Create business, like control what you can control. And if you do that, then we're all going to be all right.
All right, Dave, bring us home.
Okay, so I do have a big, bold projection because I always have things like this, right? Okay, but it's nothing what we've talked about so far. So I do believe, and this is one of the hats that I wear, is I serve at the federal level on the Federal Taxation Committee. So where am I going with this? We have elected a new congressman to represent several in San Jose, a gentleman by the name of Jimmy Panetta. So our government affairs division of SCORE was instrumental in getting Jimmy Panetta elected, et cetera. Here's the good news, right? So there's, I think it's called HR 9015, which is Bring More Homes to the Market Act, which Jimmy Panetta authored. What does that do? It increases capital gains from 250 for single people to 500 and increases capital gains for married couples from 500 to $1 million. So our congressman, our very congressman, instituted this bill. Now he has to bring it back because it's a new Congress. It's bipartisan support. So there's a Republican out of Ohio, I believe it is, that's on the other side of the bill. You can't get anything through Congress. It's not bipartisan supported. But here's my prediction. My prediction is it gets traction this year, right? I think and again, I'm optimistic on this, that we actually get something by next year. So now what will that do? Think about what that will do for us, right? $1 million of tax-free capital gains, right? So that's our congressman. That's our congressman that SCORE helped get elected, that our government affairs division was involved with. And guess what? How they did that? Because people contribute RAF dollars. You know, I was going to bring this home, whole thing. Realtor Action Fund. If you have an opportunity to contribute, that's what we do with this money. We make sure the right Congress people are elected. We make sure they advocate on our behalf. This is why we go back and forth to Washington, D.C. That's why we send a team back there to make sure things like this make sense, right? Because guess what? This was put in place, I think, in 1994 or something. It's a long ways ago, right? Back then, the current capital gains treatment of 250 and 500 was supposedly projected to impact 4%, the ceiling, 4% of the nation. 4%. Now, today, 97% of Californians are up against that threshold. 97%, right? So guess what? That's why one of the reasons no one's selling, right? So imagine if we get this through, right? So again, the appeal is please contribute to the Realtor Action Fund, because this is what we do. And that's my big bold projection for 2023-ish, 4-ish.
Nice. I'm going to go ahead and put one of the mics on the table here. And if you have a question for the panel, why don't you come on up? We're going to do one last pass through, and Brian, I think it starts with you, but anyone can take this. You know, we've said a lot, we've shared a lot. Does anyone have any closing remarks, anything that they wanted to say that they didn't get a chance to say or share?
We all ought to be grateful to do what we do in this industry, in this area. This is the most beautiful, one of the most beautiful places in the world. Our houses still sell in 30 days. They sell it at high prices. Our consumers are willing to pay us for that. And it's a wonderful business to be in. So I'm leaving this on a very optimistic note. Head down, work hard, and be grateful for what we have in this industry. Thank you, Neil.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone else have anything left unsaid? If not, we'll open it up to questions.